Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Hemmings Hot Rod BBQ. I am Mike Musto along with Robin Audi, our marketing director and head of business development for Hemmings. Today we're gonna talk about something that's a little off the beaten path for Hemmings. We're gonna talk about Porsches. That's right. I said Porsches. You know those little things that are shaped like turtles and go really, really fast? Well, I happen to be a fan of them. Rob happens to be a fan of them. The market for Porsches is well all over the place, and in the Hemmings classifieds, we happen to have a ton of them, a ton of Porsches. So I don't know. What do you think, Rob? Should we rap about Porsches for a little bit?
Yeah, and I mean, in the last couple of weeks, what happened? We both bought one.
We actually did, and this was in like a week of each other. So it's actually kind of fitting.
Pretty
It's actually kind
random,
of
but
funny.
yeah,
But we're gonna talk. We're not gonna talk about. We're talking about affordable Porsches right now,
yes,
right? And believe it or not, there are still some ways to get into the Porsche market that won't put you underwater. There are still some great vehicles out there that you can get for not that much money, that'll get you into the game and hopefully make you smile as you're driving down the street. So let's see. I'm going to say we're going to talk today about the 1999 to 2004 Porsche 911 996 designation, which is really kind of a love-or-hate vehicle. We're also going to talk about the 986 Boxster from 96 to 2004, and then we're going to hit up on the 987 Cayman from 2005 to 2012. Now, these cars right now, you know, they're pushing 10 to 20 years old at this point, but that doesn't mean they're not good, right? It just means they're a little bit different, and you've got two sides of the fence. You got the classic air-cooled guys, right? That are
yep,
like, if it's not an air-cooled 911,
don't care.
they don't care, and you're an idiot, and you're not a Porsche person, and we hate you, you're the worst. And then you've got the water-cooled guys that are like air-cooled guys, you're the worst. Like, why do you want to sit in traffic and overheat in your archaic death machine,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's you know, in the past I've had a couple of Porsches. I've had I grew up with a 944S, and then I also, for those of you who follow, I had a 928S for a while that I restored and actually got rid of a couple of years ago. So I'm a transaxle guy at heart. I like front engine, rear wheel drive. If you know me as a muscle car guy, then you understand completely why I chose those cars. But very recently, I just went out and I picked up a 2002 911 C4S, the Carrera 4S, which is the 996, the fried egg front end, which everybody except for myself on the planet seems to hate, even
I
though
hate them.
Porsche, oh, I know you hate them, but like, I don't understand. See, this is the whole thing. The
It looks good
996,
on with the wide body or whatever you want to call it that you got this the 4S. I think
that's like that line
it
from
kind of
Caddyshack.
works. Yeah,
That's the same thing from saying like Caddyshack when Rodney Dangerfield looked at the guy buying the hat and he's like, "You get a free bowl of soup with that hat," you
yeah,
know? Like, but here's the thing: as unloved as the world makes the 996 out to be, they sold 175,000 of them.
yeah, yeah.
So like,
It's a
say what you
much
will.
more modern car than the 993 it replaced. Much more. It's more of a kind of mass-produced car to a certain degree.
Yeah.
They
Well, I mean,
changed it up with that car significantly.
it was the first of the water cooled Porsches, first
Yeah,
of the water cooled 911s, not water cooled
911.
Porsches,
Yeah,
but 911s, right? Um, but from and you know there were a lot of shared similarities between the Porsche Boxster that came out in 96 to the 996. There just were like the Boxster shared the same headlights. It shared a lot of some of the front end components and things like that. Um, but it was also designed in the 90s when you had that kind of organic kind of bulbous styling, right? For like some of the interior bits and bobs were a little cheaper and whatnot.
yeah. It's
Um,
not. It's a little funky inside.
it's a little funky, but it's not. I think if you get the right one, you could still get in them. So you know, like 996 prices for those cars were just, and again, don't know why, but unloved forever. And yet there are tons of them out there running around with 150, 160,000
Yeah,
miles on them.
they
So
probably hit the bottom value-wise about 2 years ago, and now they're starting to come up pretty quick, right? So, like, if you still
yeah.
want one, you better not wait much longer,
No, you
right?
need to get out and you need to boogie and you need to buy one. Now, I will tell you that you know, and all you have to do is just type in a couple of 996, and you will see that a lot of the Porsche people will lose their minds on these cars, right? And the first thing that's going to come up, it's been talked about for death in the Porsche community, is the IMS bearing, the intermediate shaft bearing. And it's one of those things, it's a part of the car that if it fails, it could potentially ruin your motor and blah, 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 right? It affects approximately 4 to 5% of those cars. So figure out of 175,000 cars made, you're looking at 8,000 cars, 8,200 cars that might be affected by these things. It's one of those things where if you're looking for the car, it's always great if you can find one that's had the bearing replaced because it's just peace of mind. However, you know, if it hasn't had it and the car's got 50, 60,000 miles on it, odds are you're good. Just
You're probably
replace
out of
it.
the woods.
You're probably out of the woods. Odds are just replace it when you get the clutch done, right?
Yeah.
Because you're in there anyway. Get the clutch done. Get the IMS bearing done. These are, at this point, almost 20-year-old cars. So you want to do a front to back on the thing anyway and check your hoses and all that other fun stuff. But, you know, you could still get into a 911 Carrera, a 996 Carrera for, I want to say, you know, when you talk about decent cars now, you're probably seeing 18 on the low end, all the way up to, you know, well over 100,000 if you wanted to go buck wild for something like a GT2, right, or GT3. Now, I will tell you that the certain cars like the GT2, GT3, and the turbo had the Metzger engine in it, which is a completely different architecture.
Completely different animal.
You know, don't suffer from the IMS issue. They're pretty bomb-proof motors. Like, if you're gonna get a turbo, go ahead. But there were so many different variants of these cars. There was the Carrera 4, the Cabriolet, the Targa, the C4S, the Turbo, the GT2, the Carrera Anniversary, blah, 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 right? I will tell you this. From a driving perspective, they are every bit as good as any 911. They're fast, they're comfortable. The nice part is, man, Rob and we talked about this all the time. Like, when I grow up, I'm going to buy a Porsche. Like, you know, we always said, like, if you had, you know, between 15 and 30 grand or 15 and 40 grand, you'd go out and you'd buy a Mustang or Camaro if you wanted a sports car, right? Something a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But once you start to get into adulthood, if you can do it, you go out and you buy you know, a Cayman or a 911. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's just funny because literally within 2 weeks of each other, I bought a C4S and Rob bought a Cayman.
Yep. Bought a Cayman.
So now, what did you buy?
Well, in that other episode, we were talking about my Alfa Romeo lease, and it was coming up. So I was trying to work a deal on the next one, and there's no deals to be had right now. So I started looking for a variety of vehicles, let's say.
Yeah.
That would be fun and hold their value. And Cayman is on that short list. And one popped up a couple hours away from me. I had my little alert, and I emailed within the first 15 minutes. I was sure I'd lost it already because it was priced so low. But the guy called me back that evening, and you know, it actually helped that I work for Hemmings because he's a Hemmings reader.
Yeah, he is.
So he actually held the car for me because it took me a day to get all the way over there because my kid's graduating from high school and stuff. So anyway, long story short, I got myself a 2008 base model Cayman 5-speed, macadamia with a tan interior. Generally, I'm not a fan of tan interiors, but with this macadamia,
it looks good on
works.
That car, though, dude. Yeah,
it works. Car has 47,000 miles on it. It's immaculate. I mean, unreal. My neighbors all think I'm rich now, and I'm not pointing out that I paid less than they paid for their Subaru.
That's the funny part, dude. Like, and like everybody, my neighbors say the same thing. They're like, "You bought a Porsche," and I'm like, "I paid less for this than the price of a new base model Honda Accord."
Right.
Right. And my car's got 54,000 miles on it. And like, you look at it, and this is the whole thing. I mean, if you want to even go, and Caymans are great. Like, Caymans you got to think about this. Cayman was an extension of the Boxster, right? And the Boxsters came out in 1996. And the Boxster was that car that Porsche is designed to basically save the brand, right?
Yep.
Because think about what was happening in the 80s. You had the 911 993. Great car, but still air-cooled. Then you had the 928, which had been around for 20 years. It was old. It was time to let it go. And don't get me wrong, I adore the 928. I've had one. It was amazing. But then you also had the 968, which was another front engine transaxle car, right? Which was basically
Yep.
a hopped up 944 turbo,
Yep.
right? That's basically what it
Yep.
was. Again, not taking anything away, but you're talking about a product line in the Porsche world that was 25 years old. So when the Boxster came out, that was huge because that was the company's first completely clean sheet car since the
Mm-hmm.
914,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was crazy. And so
People
that's
went
the car
nuts
that
on that car when it
it
came out.
went nuts. I mean, and that was, and when you think about the Boxster, people always they made fun of the Boxster, and everybody's thing was, well, if you buy a Boxster, you can't afford 911.
Yeah.
And then there were
Or
the
it's a
people
girl's
that,
car or whatever.
yeah, was this. But then there were those people that were like, have you ever driven a Boxster? It's like those people that
Yeah.
say, have you
Yeah.
ever driven a Miata before you
Yeah.
crap on the Miata?
Yeah.
Because you're talking mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, manual transmission,
Yeah.
I mean,
Perfect balance.
3,100 pounds, perfectly balanced or whatever they weigh, 2,900 pounds, um, a couple of hundred horsepower in there. I mean, and it's a Porsche. Porsche doesn't make bad stuff.
Yeah.
Understand. They
Yeah.
might drop the ball a little bit. Like the interior of my 996 is nice. It's not perfect, but it's nice, right?
Yeah.
Um, but the Boxsters, and you could pick up a Boxster now. Just type in Porsche Boxster, 10 grand. Have
Yeah.
at it.
Sure. Yeah, that you definitely can. And there are a lot. They made a lot of them. There's a lot to choose from. You can take your time, find the one. I
Well,
love the original kind of show car color combo, the silver with the red interior. That's what I would
mhm,
gravitate to,
yeah,
because that's just kind of iconic to
yeah.
me. But
But I mean, if you look at the Boxsters, I mean, you think about when they came out. I think they came with, I think it was a 2.5 liter, flat six, obviously, 200 horsepower. It was still a 100 and almost 50-mile-an-hour car. I looked
mhm,
up the stat. It was 2,800 pounds through a 5-speed manual, like 0 to 60 in 6 seconds. That's
yeah,
still
that's
a
fine.
very, very quick car by today's standards. And I mean,
And they sound
you know,
good.
the, they sound great. I mean, stats have gotten so overblown with 0 to 60 in 2 seconds or 3 seconds or whatever the bullshit is today.
Well, no one can beat a Tesla now anyway, right? So
No,
the game's over, dude. Like
right.
you're so just buy something that's fun to drive and enjoy yourself a little
Well,
bit.
I think, it was really funny because Rob had sent me a picture. He sent me this ad for this Cayman. And I looked it over and I looked at the price. I looked at the mileage, which was stupid low. And I was like, don't think. Just call and buy.
Yeah.
And like you gotta know Rob. Rob always sends me shit. And he's like, what do you think of this? Maybe I'll offer the guy this amount of money. He never buys anything. He talks about buying stuff a lot, but he never actually
That's
pulls
not
the
true.
trigger.
I bought like 4 cars in the last 2 years, but
Yeah, but you bought stuff that okay. All right. What year's your pickup truck?
1963.
Yeah. How many times you driven it? 3 times.
Yeah.
It's
I need to
unacceptable.
pick up a new battery for it.
For 3 years. It's been 3 years. 3 years. Why haven't you driven it?
There's some storage issues. Yeah, it's complicated.
But I was very, very excited when he's like, you know what, I'm going to do it. Because I think that if you're looking to get into these cars now, they're still very affordable.
Yeah.
You can, and they're just good. I mean, like I said, you could pick up a base Boxster, or a base Cayman, or a base 996, I'm talking well under $30,000,
Well,
right?
your father-in-law got a gorgeous 996, right? I mean,
Oh,
just
oh my God.
stunning car, right?
Well, he bought his.
That is a cream puff like two
Yeah,
years
he
ago.
bought his 2 years ago and it was actually, he bought his 2 years ago in Napa, California. And I actually went to check it out because I live up here. And I started driving it and I was like, this thing is
That's what
great.
sold you on it, right? Really, on the
Oh,
whole 996
dude,
thing.
it was completely because I had driven 993s and like in a perfect world, I'd own a 997 Gen 2 GT3 RS. That's
Yeah.
like my
Well,
unicorn, but they're
sure.
160 grand. So like, but I drove this 996 and his is a Carrera 4 narrow body. It's pearl white xenon headlights, and I was like, I didn't understand where all the hate from these things were coming
Yeah.
from. And I was like, Jesus, I'm gonna get one of these. Like it really was that good of a car. Um, so when this one came up, it was one of those things like you. I mean, I saw this thing pop up at 7 a.m. An alert went off. At 7:02, this guy had an email. At
Yeah.
7:40, I had left my house and I was at his house an hour and a half away, an hour and a half later. And it was one of those things. If you're going to do this and you see one pop up, you think it's the car, jump on it. Don't wait
Yeah.
because the market's starting to really kind of go right now. Now, for the 996, like I said, everybody's like, you got to get a PPI, you got to get a PPI. And that is very smart. Get a PPI, which is a pre-purchase inspection. Check for things like the IMS.
Which
If,
you
if
did
there's
not do.
No, I didn't do because
Yeah.
sometimes sometimes you just get a feeling about a car.
Yeah.
The
I
guy
didn't do
had
one
full,
either.
I mean, the guy that I bought my car had full service from new. It had been dealer service since
Yeah.
day one. Low mileage, 54,000 mile car, beautiful shape inside out. The car looked almost brand new. But I will say the first thing I did was I brought it in for service and I brought it to my Porsche mechanic who worked on my 928 and knows these cars. And I was like, and I knew, and again, I was prepared to spend some money on this thing. And I said, listen, I don't care what it needs, just do it. Obviously, do the IMS, check for
Yeah.
bore scoring, which is an issue,
Yeah.
do all that stuff. And just do it front to back. And I called him. I'm like, dude, well, what did you find? He goes, dude, this thing's immaculate. He goes, we're
That's
going to do a
awesome.
full service front to rear. He goes, we're going to change all the fluids, go over everything. He goes, it's a cream puff.
That's great.
But don't drive it easy. He goes, get in and beat the hell out of it. He goes,
That's
have fun
great.
with it. So I'm still in, even with my big super service for under the price of a base Toyota Camry. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's pretty cool as far as I'm concerned.
My car is literally, I'm pretty sure, had the original front tires on it.
Mm. Mm.
It's hard to tell. The dot code said 2009, so maybe they've been replaced once. The rears were, so the first thing I did was new tires all the way around, and both
Yeah.
you and my other buddy said get pilots on there.
Yeah.
And they're cheap because I'm just got 17s on my car. So it was like
Yeah.
$800 at discount tire, and that's done.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, like you, I'm taking it to Gerber Motorsports over here in Seattle, and they're gonna do the 48,000 mile service. And after that, I expect, just gonna treat it like a
Car.
car.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, these are not the one thing about Porsche is that they do build really, really good stuff. Now, with that being said, set aside some money for maintenance. Don't think it's going to be, super. Let's put it this way: everything will be reliable if you take care of it, but it does have the word Porsche on it, which means your parts are going to be more expensive. Odds are the service is going to be a little more expensive. But again, you're getting into these cars whereby, like mine it's not a Tiptronic, which is the automatic that you can shift manually. This is before PDK. Mine's a 6-speed manual. But you can, these are 170 mile an hour cars, 175 mile an hour cars. So take them for a ride. But I'm going to tell you right now, do not stray. Listen, if you can go out and you can afford a 997 or 991 or 992 or 993, whatever model you want. If you can afford it, God bless, go out and buy it. This one just happened to be like mine and Rob's. They just happen to be in our price range, and they're great, great cars. But I wouldn't wait because they are the last affordable ones, right? You're going to start with the Boxster, then you got the Cayman, then you get the 996. You're not going to go wrong.
They're safe
not.
investments. If you get the right car that's been maintained, not abused, it'll hold its value as long as you keep it in good shape. Just maintain it by the book. But like you said, you can drive them hard. Just don't be, maintain them right.
Don't be an ass. Like, don't. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I think if you're looking, I think obviously, like a Boxster is your best bet, right? Because you can get into a Boxster cheap, and but they're just good, man. They're just fabulous, fabulous cars. Cayman is probably 911 guys are gonna punch me in the face. The Cayman, from a driving perspective, is really a better car than the 911 because it's better balanced. It's mid-engine. I have tracked Caymans before, and they are unreal. So I think, Rob, your car, I think any of the 987 Caymans right now are the Porsche bargain of of the
Yeah.
moment.
What I like about them is there's no fried egg, right? The interior's better. They've improved
Mm-hmm.
the interior. And then the production numbers on them are low. We were looking them up
Low.
with like 3,000 a year. So
Yeah.
you're kind of got this baked in rarity with those, which will help them keep their value. Whereas they're making a lot more Porsche Boxsters, a lot more 911. So it's Caymans
Mm-hmm.
is kind of, you know, and for me in the Northwest, obviously, you know, the convertible's not the, how often can I put the top down, right? So it was kind of
Right.
the perfect combo. I'd love to have a 997. It's just not, I can't justify it right now. So the Cayman was just the right thing for me.
Yeah. Well, I have a feeling you're going to like that car more and more the more you drive it, because there is something that feels good about knowing you're driving something that's that much fun and you didn't get raked over the coals,
Yeah, exactly, for
from a
sure.
price perspective. And I think that anybody who kind of dives in and buys, one of these three, whether it's a Boxster Cayman or a 996, is going to be laughing all the way to the bank because, day's end, it's still a Porsche. It still does exactly, what it was meant to do. These are still fabulous, fabulous cars. Just like I said, get the maintenance done. If you can get a PPI done, that's great. And then just go out and drive your car and enjoy it. I don't know. Any other words of wisdom for anybody who's looking for these things?
I mean, take your time and watch the market for a little bit, get a sense of, and you'll see ones that'll go up and you're gone in half an hour. And
Yeah,
you'll get a sense for the ones that sit there for a while. So, and there's like with all these kind of enthusiast cars, the one weird thing that can be is you'll sometimes see a lot of owners even on a lower miles car. So just trying to dissect that owner history can be a little strange sometimes. This one was good. I got a full sense of. It started as a leased car in Marin, ended up with a commercial pilot in Texas, and then came out here. But like I had all the docs related to that, so I felt good about it. So
yeah, no, I think that's definitely good. And then the other thing is, if you're looking at like don't look at. I'm gonna tell you right now, don't look at Bring a Trailer, because the prices on there are through the goddamn roof, and it skews the market. Right, it makes everybody think that their junk is worth $9 billion, which we all know is not the case. I can tell you right now, Rob did not buy his at an auction, and I did not buy mine at an auction.
yeah, you're going to pay a surcharge if you are competing against other people on it.
Yeah, so
including Hemmings too. I mean, that's how it is sometimes. For these, it is definitely a seller's market for these cars right now. But you find there are sellers out there are going to price it closer to an actual blue book as opposed to, like you said, like a inflated price.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. But yeah, do your due diligence like everything else. Do your homework. The other thing
your good shop lined up too. You should know.
Oh God. Shop. That's part. I'm gonna rope that into the due diligence thing, because don't go into this blind. Like, go on. There's a couple of great forums. Like Renlist is a great forum. PCAR Market is great. You can look there. Believe it or not, Facebook has 1 billion groups for 911s and Boxsters and Caymans. Yeah, have a mechanic lined up. But then the other part is
ask who's the good one.
Yeah, but then also, if you have a friend with any of these cars, call them and say, "Hey, man, I'm in the market. Can I drive your car? Would you mind if would I just test drive it?" Because that's how I fell in love with like the 996. Like, I just drove one and I was like, Jesus, I don't know what everybody's talking about. These are brilliant. So if you can get behind the wheel of one, get behind the wheel of one, make your own decisions. But I'm going to tell you right now that they're cheap. If you can get one, do it. Polish it up, make it nice, drive the hell out of it, and you will have a really nice asset that's going to appreciate for years to come.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
With that being said, I think we're going to bring this episode of the Hot Rod BBQ to a close. But as always, go to the Hemmings Classifieds and check out the auction. Rob and I looked at some of the cars on there today. We got like 100, a whole bunch of different Porsches on there. So go check them out. A lot of Porsches. But otherwise, that's it, guys and gals and everybody else. And we will see you next time on the barbecue.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening, folks. And again, please subscribe to the Hot Rod BBQ podcast. If you're on Spotify, check us out there. Subscribe to it on iTunes. And if you are going to go to YouTube, make sure you go to the Hot Rod BBQ podcast and hit that subscribe button, and we'll come to you every week.